the outside. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying? It hangs on the outside?
hangs on the outside of the tank, and then you use an to air pump flows it up. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that, but it keeps water coming into it, and then it flows back into the tank.
Show the front of it. Everybody wants to see the front of it.
This
We're
part.
live. We're live, Russ.
Oh, we're live
Don't
already.
hear? Yeah, I did it while you were looking at the box. I said shh and waved to everyone. So, hey, everybody. Welcome to Isobuddies. How we doing?
That's good. I even kind of knew you were going to do that, but I didn't know when, so you got me.
We have fun here. We had like a minute and a half when you went to go get the thing, and I was like, oh, I just told him I want to do this thing, and then I told him to go get the thing. And anyway, guys, how we doing? It's like, I think we have 6 more of these to go, and then we're done. So Vance already posted Rus of Aquarimax Pets is joining us for the last time. I said, now he's quoting me in either in the Facebook post or in the description. So this is Russ's last hurrah on this show for now. Who knows? We might do a special next year or something. But for now, we're gonna you'll see. February 25th is our last one. So the 5-year mark. But I'm so glad you came back on, Russ. I know it was kind of short notice. So I'm so glad. I was trying to grow my red beard out so we can match. But this is like 3 weeks of growth right here. This is like almost 3 weeks of leaving it alone.
Oh, you're getting there.
Who have we got? We got Frank the Tank. We got Mystic Drake, Goku, double Gokus. That's a lot of Gokus. And Vance Astro. I'm pretty sure. I don't know for sure on that. That's anybody get that comic reference? Put it in the down there part. That's the comments. Okay. Vance Astro. I'll just repeat it. If you get that, you're a super nerd, and I love you. So today we're talking about refugiums, and specifically I'm going to talk about freshwater refugiums. Russ, what are you going to talk about?
Mostly that too, but I think we can talk a little bit about saltwater refugia as well.
Well, they're the same thing. Essentially, they're the same thing. So, but we're pretty much have the same organisms, the same type of organisms in both.
Yeah, they tend to be crustacean heavy and so on. So yeah, that makes sense.
Now, my wife made a connection tonight about an hour ago that I didn't make. So she's like, refugium, like a refuge? So what's refuged in there? And I said, you know what? That's exactly what it is, because the food items are growing there. Oh, my daughter painted my nails. She did such a good job. So they grow in there. So it's kind of their refuge, so they don't just get picked clean in the main tank.
Right.
Because they would just get, I mean, you could put as many as you want. In a week, they're going to be gone.
Right.
Oh, thanks, Frank. Frank just shared it in Isobuddies.
Oh, good.
So I did that a couple days ago, but I should do it right before we go, huh?
Yeah.
For people that don't notice or whatever. So yeah, like and subscribe and hit the bell icon for the last 6 episodes. It's so dark. It's such a dark feeling, but I'm in such a good mood. So refugiums, I got this idea to do a freshwater refugium. Then I started to do research, and there's really not what inspired me. It inspired me about 20 years ago, maybe 25 years ago. I was at my boss's Christmas party because I was going to be Santa Claus. That's way more backstory than you needed. That went really well, by the way. A little girl made me cry. She made me a gift. She made Santa Claus a gift. I still have it hanging on my wall. It was a little paper cutout of SpongeBob SquarePants, like the SpongeBob characters. And she said, I got you a gift, Santa, because I didn't think anyone else would. And it occurred to me that I never thought to get Santa a gift other than milk and cookies. And I literally was like, that's really sweet. Like, I was choked up. The adults were laughing. I was full on like, Santa needs a minute. But anyway, he had a saltwater tank, and it was a beautiful coral tank. It was probably a 55. But behind it, it was like it built into the wall. So in the laundry room, where the sumps and the filters and all that, and then the protein skimmers, all the ugly stuff was back behind the wall. Yeah. And then he had another tank that he was like, I want to show you this other tank. And it was just a little bit bigger, so probably a 75. But it was the refugium. and it was macroalgae and, copepods and microorganisms and starfish and all clams, so many clams in there. It was like a wall of clams.
Wow.
So much great stuff, because I found out clams are like one of the best things you can have in your refugium, because they pull out everything. Yeah, they're super filter feeders.
Yeah.
So nothing escapes the clams. So I was mystified and never wanted to get into saltwater, because you hear so much work, and then you get the pros to tell you it's only work when you're setting it up. But it's very expensive startup. So and a lot of like maintenance. So I want to just stick in my freshwater, stick in my lane. But my buddy who was on the show recently, Doug Boos, with the turtles. We talked about turtles. He is getting back into turtles, which we talked about.
Yeah.
And he is, as he's getting turtles, he's getting them shipped, and he says, "Hey, I can add another one. Do you want a mud turtle?" And they're about the size of a quarter right now. They're little bitty guys. So I'm like, heck yeah, I want a turtle. I may try to get 2. I don't know. I haven't worked that past the wife yet. But they can live in a tank. They're pretty slow. They're more carrion eaters than anything else. They eat off the bottom, carrion worms. But their turtles are filthy, right? Even little turtles, they only get about this big, maybe. I don't even think they get that big. So
they stay pretty small.
Yeah, these are 3-stripe mud turtles, to be very specific. Mm-hmm. So active, personable, a little grumpy. They'll give you a nip. So my wife's like, "Can I hold it?" I was like, "You can. You might have regrets afterwards, but you can hold it." So anyway, I was like, how do I filter this thing? I don't want to do water changes every week. I don't want to do that. How do I not do that? How do I keep it to like once a month?
Yeah.
Here's what you do, guys. You get ready to top off the tank. That's all you need to do, really. You get a refugium. So the refugium, the main tank's going to, excuse me, going to be a 36-gallon bow front. And the refugium is going to be a 55-gallon tank. Because, again, I'm obsessed with the refugium. I want to see the microorganisms. I'm a true Isobuddy. I'm the OG Jaglone, right? So,
right.
So I want to see those microorganisms. That's what's got it for me. I do want to have beautiful fish. I want to have a beautiful couple of turtles, very healthy, entertain me. But I want to sit. It's going to be I'll get into the design of it later. But this is what goaded me on. And so, Russ, I need your science brain. So tell me more about how refugiums work.
Okay. Well, generally, if we define refugium, and it's like your wife said, it does come from the same word. It's a refuge. That's the purpose. It is some part of an environment that is sequestered in such a way that organisms that wouldn't otherwise have a chance to flourish, thrive, and breed do get that chance because they're protected from their predators. And that includes plants, that includes microorganisms, it includes crustaceans, mollusks, whatever. It can include a lot of different things. And it can be as simple as, like in marine aquaria, sometimes they'll do what they call a pod pile, where they'll just pile a whole bunch of chunks of live rock in a big pile. And so copepods and isopods and things like that can get in those little cracks and crevices. Tons of surface area in there, right? And food falls in there. They can eat it. Fish can't get into that pod pile, so they can't eat them. And they can breed and proliferate. Whoa, proliferate in there. And then they go out into the main part of the tank. But it gives them a chance to survive. So things like, the mandarin gobies or whatever can feed on them without causing their extinction. And it can be much more elaborate, like the setup you're describing, when it's separate from the tank but is connected to the tank and there's flow through. So you get water flowing into the refugium back out into the main tank, but there's a bunch of stuff going on in that tank that's allowing those organisms to breed and reproduce.
I love it. I did not realize that the live rock acts as an in-tank refugium. I thought it was just like a mount for your coral, basically, or the algae that lives on it helps to maintain the water parameters. Right.
So yeah, and so they'll call that a pod pile, and that's maybe a refugium in its most simple form, because you don't even have a separate thing outside of the tank. You just have an area that is protected.
Okay. Sorry, I'm responding real quick. I just have been in love with the idea, and there's so many designs. So in my research, I saw a lot of designs that I wanted to incorporate, but they're all saltwater designs. The only ones I saw for freshwater, you guys might be able to find a link for me or whatever. Oh, Ruby's here. Ruby Sosa. Hey, she designed my logo.
Oh, cool.
This logo that'll never get painted up on my wall. I'll finish painting it. You know what? I'm gonna do it for the last episode. We're gonna finish it, and it's gonna be done. She took my logo very generously and kind of made it streamlined, made it more appropriate and less clunky. So we still have the old one. We still have merch with the old one, the original drawing, but she took my drawing and made it beautiful. So yeah, she worked on Archer, the cartoon Archer. You may not know that.
Oh, cool.
Did character design for Archer. Yeah, so she's famous. Just another one of my followers. What can I say? No. All these famous people that hang out with me. What was I saying? So most of the ones I saw are like a hang-on one, like you were kind of showing. Do you have that still right there?
Yeah, it's right here. Pull it out of the box.
I was busy laughing and waving. So did you say it's for in the tank or does it hang on the outside?
Most of it is outside the tank. So
okay.
Basically, here, I took the lid off.
Okay.
Put it back on. But
and this is from Fluval.
Yeah, you got this lid on top. Basically, it's hard to see from where I'm looking, but you pipe air into it.
Yeah.
And from the bottom, and the air pulls water outside of your main tank, and because it's just following the air bubbles and pulls it into the main tank, and then it flows water back into the tank with this spillway that you can kind of see there.
Yeah.
And so it's basically it's small, but it is a refugium, and you can separate it with these partitions. Here's the air line that you hook up to it.
Yeah.
And the partitions in this little bag. So, and it has these slats or these little slots here, so you can separate it into different things. So you could decide, I'm going to put moss in this one, and I'm going to put, my baby fish in this other side. I've got like 3 baby fish, whatever over here, and let them grow in there for a couple of weeks or whatever. You got different ideas what you can do. Or you could just say, I'm going to leave all the partitions out, and my purpose is raising scuds in here. And whatever scuds get washed out into the main tank become food for the fish, but they're not going to become extinct because they're in here, and you put substrate in there and lots of surface area and some plant matter for them to munch on. And, you got a lot of options. I'm going to use this one for blackworms.
Oh.
So I'm going to hook up one of my Daphnia tanks. And because both Daphnia and blackworms will filter feed, apparently. This is what I'm learning recently. And I knew Daphnia did, but I didn't know that blackworms did so much. So I'm going to try to put blackworms in here, and then I'll also feed them supplemental food like bits of algae chips and whatnot.
Yeah.
But they usually die in enclosures where there's not a lot of flow through. But because there's the pump that is causing constant flow through in here, this should really help them to do really well. And they'll be basically benefiting from the Daphnia care, and I don't have to do anything except for maybe throw them some food once in a while. Because caring for the Daphnia will be caring for the blackworms. And so that's my idea with this. It's not my idea. I got it from somebody else. Jacob from Colony and Culture shared that tip with me about the blackworms, and he's culturing them right now. So I'm going to give it a go.
That's very cool. You said blackworms are like the last live food you have not cultured.
Well, they are probably the most popular live food that I haven't cultured, besides roaches.
Okay. All right. Besides roaches, but the Mrs. Aquarimax said no on that one, right?
Right. But blackworms I can go ahead and do. So that'll be fun.
I need to do micro roaches again. I think that was something I wanted to do again.
What kind did you do?
I don't remember the species. Somebody just sent them to me. I mentioned them on the show, and then somebody reached out and was like, I'll send you a colony. And I said, oh, sure. Okay. Cool. It like retails for $50 or something. It was like a dozen or something. And they live for a while. Yeah. And then they went to, who got them? The ant mantids that I had. They were fun to watch. And then the ants. Obviously, the ants got them too. This was when Sheila was only like 200 or 300 ants.
Okay. So how long ago
was she was a baby? Like 4 years ago? 4.5
Okay.
years, something like that.
It could have been, yeah.
Wow, she's getting so old. I need to find my book and find out what her birthday is, because
Yeah.
I need
That's
to
kind of
find that
amazing.
book.
You've had her that long and such a flourishing ant colony. It's awesome.
She does great. She does great. I gave her like a half a can of cat food, the little cans.
Mm-hmm.
Like 2 days, it was gone. So I've been kind of leaving her alone because it's winter and I don't want her to explode because her nest is heated. So she'll just keep feeding the babies and then they'll explode in numbers. And I don't really want that right now. So, because we still have some I'm dealing with that escaped last time. We went to pull the drain off. We had a plumber here, and I went to show him that the one line in the floor is the drain in the floor is backed up. So every time I do laundry, the laundry water was coming up all over. So I'm showing him, and we pull the cover off, and there's like 200 or 300 ants in there, and he's like, "Oh, there they are." So I got out the shop vac and scooped him up. Josh got Compsodes Schwartzy.
Oh yeah, those are one of the
There you
microroach species. Yeah.
I didn't. Oh, get those. Those would be cool, but they're not. I tried. There's an isopod. Is that what you're talking about? Is that Campodes Schwartzy? Is an isopod?
It's a roach.
Is that
It's
a roach?
microroach.
Okay. There's crickets. There's symbiotic crickets that live with the ants. There's roaches. There's isopods. But my ants, Sheila just ate the isopods like immediately.
Were they the what is it? The species that is it Plady whatever it is?
I think so. They look just like dwarf whites.
Yeah.
They could have sold me dwarf whites. I'd had no idea. I'd have been like, "Yep, this is them. Awesome, good job." They didn't. I don't think they did. It was Isopod chick.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had her on. I've wanted to. She's always got some wild stuff.
She's got some cool stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. The Troglodilus that she had they kind of look like, to me, they look like a Porcellio version of clowns.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. Oh, but we're off the reservation now. Okay, as usual. So, I always wind up talking about Sheila because she's my prized possession. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the plumber looked at my ant colony for like full-on hour. I gave him a tour. He was fascinated.
Did he take some money off your labor costs for that?
He did, and not for that, I don't think, but he gave us a deal. Like it was far less than we thought it was going to be, like $100 less than.
Oh, it might have helped
us. So yeah, so he said that he spent about a half hour down here watching her because I gave her some protein and told him, now you can watch. I'll give her the protein way over here, and in 10 minutes you'll see a feeding trail from the one tank to the other. And he's like, "There's no way." And then he calls me down. He's like, "Hey, I'm downstairs." He's like, "Is this safe? Is this going to be fine?" And I was like, "Yeah, just watch it, man. Just chill. Just check it out." And it's a really cool thing to see all of a sudden, because we watched the one ant. We watched the first one go into the food, and then it made a beeline for the other tank, for the home tank.
Wow.
And I was like, "Oh, give it 5 minutes then." I didn't know one was going to find it that fast. So give it 5 minutes and you'll have a feeding trail. And then I went upstairs. I was like, "Okay, see ya."
Yeah.
And 5 minutes later, he's calling me down, and it was just hundreds going across. Okay, so back is an episode about refugiums. We're talking about the ants. Yeah, I know. It's the damn ants. They always get me. It's such a cool thing to have, guys. Get ants. The refugium. So I want you guys to see how my brain works. So my friend mentioned the turtle. I got excited for the turtle. Got less excited for water changes. Then I thought of refugium. Then I got super excited because I have all these tanks sitting around. Then I got extra excited because I have all these great tanks that I can just use, right? So I can just use these tanks and that I already have. I already have like 80% of the equipment that I'm going to need.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things to consider doing it this way. Because of course I can't do it simple. I can't just do a hang-on tank, I could do a hang-on tank. Absolutely. Yeah. But again, I'm fascinated with the refugium, and I'll watch this thing for hours. So let's present you're going to take a journey with me through my notes. These are all notes taken on printer paper while I'm supposed to be working. So this is what I do at work, in case you want to know what your banker does when you're not there. Okay? All right, this is the first note that I took, the first little thing. So this involved, this is a little drawing with airstone, and I colored it. So this is like a weird drawing of the other tank. We'll get to that. So this is my original idea. So to return the water to the main tank, right, the display tank, we have an overturned breeder box. So turned over with rocks inside and then an air bubbler inside. So all of those little slats will keep larger organisms from getting in there and getting sucked up into the tank. But the little guys like Daphnia and Gamarus, how do you say it actually?
Gamarus.
Gamarus, all right. I like Gamarus because it sounds like what am I thinking, a Godzilla villain?
Oh, well, you could say it that way too, because who knows what the original pronunciation was. Some people pronounce it with an extra R. It doesn't need an extra R. It only has one. But
Gamarara. Gamarus. I like that too. Oh, by the way, we're drinking wild cherry and cream Pepsi.
Ooh.
It kind of tastes a lot like Dr. Pepper, but like a Pepsi version. I don't know what I was expecting, but it definitely tastes some Dr. Pepper. It's awesome.
I saw.
So anyway, go ahead.
Blackberry Dr. Pepper today. I don't know what that's like. Blackberry
Dr. Pepper. I'm intrigued. All right, that would be a flavor that goes well. Coconut Dr. Pepper was straight trash. Just so heads up, if you find it, it was garbage. So it did not make a good 24th flavor. So
that's too bad.
Anyway, so this would return. This is the base idea that I still have. So this is going to return organisms and water back to the tank. So basically, you put an air filter or air pump in here, and then you hook this over the edge of the tank. You run your line, you put it over the edge of the tank, and it just falls back in. So why do it that way, Josh? Well, here's why. And then there's a hole drilled in your tank. So let's say the display tank is here, and this is the main tank. There's a hole drilled so water comes into this tank. I'm going to do this kind of toward the middle or the bottom.
Hold on.
The intake.
Are we seeing the same thing you're seeing? I'm not sure we are. We're still seeing.
No, I'm just using sorry. Here we go. I'm using my mouse on the wrong screen.
Oh, okay.
So let's say this is the tank that I'm using my mouse like you guys can see it.
Okay. Now I can see it. Now that I know.
This is the main tank. We're going to have the intake here where the water goes from the main to the refugium. And then it's going to go up over the wall of the tanks and drip into it from just powered by the air stone.
Okay.
So I may change my mind on that and drill 2 holes and have one be the return, but still use the air stone to do it. So that's going to create flow. And then I want to work out with you later, maybe, or if you guys in the audience have an idea, because I haven't worked this out completely, you put how to get the water to flow harder through that tunnel. Basically, there's going to be a tunnel of a little clear plastic pipe that goes. I'm going to use rubber or whatever the silicone pipe tubing because I want it in case something happens. I don't want it to crack. You know what I mean? That would be catastrophic. But anyway, why do it this way, Josh? Why drill holes? Why not just do it in your sump like the other people do, or use some kind of a canister filter to do it? That kind of a setup. Well, here's why. I've heard nightmare stories of one of the 2 systems failing and just either draining your display tank or draining your refugium tank by overflowing the other tank. So we're not going to do it that way. I don't want to do it that way. I want it to be this way. If anything fails, it's just shared water between the tanks. That's all. That's the worst thing that can happen, is that there's nothing that can happen. I could probably run the whole system without any mechanics at all because there's going to be so many plants in this thing. So I'm not going to do that. We're still going to have filtration and whatever, but this is something that could happen. So anyway, moving on. Here's where my brain went next. So this is the original design. So side by side. Okay. This would be the 36 tank, 36 bow front. This would be the 55. You can see the 2 tubes. This is a top down, the top view. Okay. So you're not seeing where the levels are of this, but this is one of these is going to be higher than the other. Okay. Okay. This is kind of another version of the return. I nixed this because I really didn't like it. I didn't like it. This is going to be a sponge filter. As you can see, airstone funnel, like a funnel type of thing to focus the air bubbles up here. I thought it would create more lift. I don't know for sure if that'll work yet. I might test this out. I don't know what the sponge filter will do. So that's why I was like, why have it after the funnel. That doesn't make any sense. So you can see they're not all good ideas, but there's no bad ideas in the brainstorm, guys.
Right. You're right. It's something, I think it's a great idea to play around with it, test it out and see what happens. Because of course the sponge is going to change drastically in flow when it gets some particles in it and all that. So it's
right.
Yeah.
I want it to be pretty consistent without too much. So I think we're going to stick to that last version. We're going to stick to something like this where it's clear. I can take this out and clean it if I have to. But maybe knock some bigger holes in this thing. So it's not just taking, the little bitty guys. We'll see. Cause I'm going to put, neocardinia in the fluval, in the fluval. I'm going to put it in the fluval tank. In the refugium tank. I was doing so good too. My brain was working so good before I went live. So then this was the first day. This was all the first day. Then we got into our design bits. So vernal tank, substrate 6 inches deep, flat, basically flat. So it changed. It might be a hump. I kind of want it to be in the middle, like a hump all the way across.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll see why this changed to flat later.
Okay.
Water depth is based on the main tank. So the main tank, they're not going to sit completely flush with each other because the stands are different sizes and the tanks are a little different and whatever. So the water level is going to be based on what the main tank is going to hold, which it's not going to be full because we have turtles.
Right.
So, yeah. Okay, Ruby's here and Katie DeJonia. And then our display tank, we're going to have about 4 inches deep in the front and 6 inches in the back. So I'm going to do that thing where you make it look deeper, right?
Mm-hmm.
Plays with your eyes. So the back will be up a little bit. I learned another trick with aquascaping that I'll get to later that I wrote down in a note that I took a special picture of. Oh, and this is my handwriting, by the way. It's fantastic. So your water is going to be 12 inches above the substrate layer. So 16 total. Background of multiple shells. So that's so the turtle can get out. They really don't need to get out that much, but they do get out to dry off.
Yeah.
Some floating plants. I'm thinking those red
root floaters.
Red root floaters. Yeah, I'm thinking those guys because I just think they're pretty and they're just good. I like them. Maybe water lettuce instead. I don't know. Just a couple big pieces of water lettuce would be cool.
And water lettuce, I have a ton of that, and I throw away a ton of it every week. It grows so fast. I mean, it's great for pulling nutrients out of stuff.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So,
I wish it was delicious. It doesn't seem to be delicious.
You can actually, I haven't done this. I hear if you cook it, you can eat it. If you don't cook it, it has these little crystals in it that irritate your skin or something. So,
well, okay. Like nuts, like a lot of our nuts that we eat.
Yeah.
So this is the display tank versus the vernal tank. This is just real basic notes. And then it's what you see in your head, right? Everybody does this, I think, to an extent. Some people just take notes in their head and remember, I can't do that.
No, it's better on paper.
I rather water lettuce than duckweed.
Oh, me too.
I get it.
Duckweed is the devil's rice of water.
Yeah, it covers the top. It fills it gets in your filters. It gets everywhere. It's a pain in the neck. And then you get a dried film of it around the top of the tank.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not my favorite.
Nor is it mine. Yeah.
I tried it in a vernal pool situation because I thought it would be good to give them a little shade and shelter, and it was not good. So, and I had a real hard time. It just
becomes everything. It's like kudzu.
Yeah, exactly. And it blocks out everything. So it blocks out like all the light that you're trying to get in there.
Yeah.
Then we have a list of plants. This is a wish list of plants that I'm putting. These are kind of going to go between the tanks, but this is mostly for the main tank.
Okay.
So we'll see. These dwarf aquarium lilies are the ones I found. There's these pods you can get, like they're the seeds, and you just put them in a bowl, and they become water lilies.
Oh yeah, the little like the what is it? The corms. They're like bulbs, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but it looks like they split open. So they split open like a little pod. So I don't know. But I don't know if they can go. Hey Moon, I don't know if they can go that deep. Is my problem. So
I see what you're saying.
But they're like it's like $4 for a dozen. So I mean, it's worth a shot.
It's worth a shot. Yeah.
I could try it on 2 of them and then put the other ones in bowls and have pretty water lilies.
Yeah.
Here we go. So if you put small plants in the back of your tank, if you put smaller plants with smaller leaves in the back, and bigger plants in the front, it makes it look like it's deeper.
It's deeper.
It's an optical illusion, so it looks like you're looking farther back, right? They
Yeah.
do this at the aquarium. They do this at the Shed Aquarium for sure. So this I learned on an aquascaping video, and I learned more things, but this was the one that I was like, I would have never thought of it. It sounds totally backwards.
Mm-hmm.
But this tank's going to get light from both sides, so it won't make that much difference. If we have plants in the back, they'll be getting about the same light as the ones in the front. And then it's just a matter of keeping everything trimmed, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm super excited. Super excited for that trick to work. Then we have the order of tasks. This is where I decided to lay out how I want to do everything. So we're going to plumb the tanks first, right? Because if I break one, then I can't do it anymore until I get a tank to replace it. Yeah. Test it out with water. Make sure it's all sealed up and good to go. Drain the water, add the background. So the background has to be crafted first. I've got a lot of practice at that now, so I think it'll go pretty well. Add the substrate, the hardscape, the plants. I want it to be basically just plants for a month. The plants will bring in some microorganisms too, so that'll be kind of fun to watch grow.
Right.
And I want to make sure I don't have Hydra. So I think a month will give me the thing to not have Hydra. We're going to kind of add plants as we go, because I don't think I can drop like $300 on plants in one go.
Right.
What are you using for supplemental fertilizer for plants? We're going to get into that, Frank. Well, actually, we passed the substrate line, so we'll get into that right now. So if you watched my video with Dustin who does Neocardinia, we did one on planting tanks on the cheap, right? That was our basic, having planted tanks for cheap. So 1,500-year lifespan Hydra? No, pass. Hard pass. That sounds about right. So you put down soil. You put down basically your potting soil that doesn't have any additives. It's just dirt. Then you put sand over it. You cap it with sand. So then you plant your plants. The roots are going to get down to that soil level, and all the nutrients you need are going to be there. So, and basically fish poop and everything is going to filter through that sand eventually and get to the dirt, and you're good to go. So the plants are almost on an eternal cycle. Also, fertilizer for the plants, all the poop that's going in there, my man. It's a lot of poop happening. So I think the plants are going to be okay. I may use fertilizer tabs. We'll see how it goes. If I see any plants suffering, we'll juice them up with a little fertilizer. I do plan on mixing some in ahead of time into the dirt layer. We're going to have some of this stuff here. Can't reach it. I just got this out because I was planting seeds for aquatic plants earlier. Some of this, that black pellet stuff. They have different colors, I guess, but it's the black pellety. Can I show you without dropping all of it? Probably. Like the shrimp substrate, tank substrate stuff, the little beads.
Yeah.
Eventually, I guess within a year, they basically turn into dust. So they're no good after that. That's why people supposedly, I don't know for sure, I didn't verify this, but supposedly that's why people keep rebuilding their aquascape tanks, is because they use that stuff to help the plants grow, and then that stuff turns into useless ash, and their plants start to die. So they have no real way to get them back on task.
So it's a time bomb.
It's kind of a time bomb. Yeah, no good. We're going to cap that soil. We're going to boost that soil up. We're going to use sand. I'm going to put that, fluorite. The fluorite chips in with the sand as well. So that's known to help your aquatic plants, your freshwater aquatic plants to grow. So that's going to be there too. That adds minerals, and I don't know exactly the science behind that, but it adds a lot of stuff for your planted tanks. Yeah. And with the brown sand I'm going to use, it'll match. It'll just look like pieces of the sand. So it won't be a big deal. I like things natural, Yeah. I see a tank with like hot pink gravel, and I'm like, that better be a 9-year-old. That better be a 9-year-old's tank. There's no reason for that.
Yeah, exactly.
You have 5 pea puffers, all named Dave, and a brittle nose named Biscuits. Speaking of pea puffers, this tank got crazy. This refugium idea got insane, you guys. So we're going to get into that. So then we add our vertical organisms, our snails, our white clouds maybe. I think I want to do white clouds in the turtle tank instead of neons. Okay. I have a real soft spot for white clouds. I don't know what it is. I love them. We're talking about white clouds. We're talking celestial pearl danios. Mm-hmm. That's like I've never had them before, and that's one of those fish that I really want.
They're cool.
Yeah.
I used to breed this. Well, both of them. I bred both of them. They're fun. And
Really?
Yeah. It's been. I just got some more white clouds. The gold varieties, just for giggles, because I can get them more easily around here.
Okay.
And so
Weird.
I've never had those before. But I've had the both long fin and short fin wild type coloration, and I've bred both of them. Super fun. And then the same with the celestial prolidenios. They both like cooler water, so
Perfect.
it's kind of nice that they'll both take. My tank is like 66 degrees right now, and they love it.
Oh, mine won't be that cold, so it's going to be around 70, 72. So they're not going to be loving life. They're not going to be like ideal, thriving temperatures, but I think they'll be fine.
Oh, 70 to 72 isn't bad for either one of them. That's still within their. I mean, it's in the higher end of white cloud range, and that's perfectly fine for celestial prolidenios temperature wise.
I'm excited to hear that. I'll be picking your brain for fish knowledge, you and Chris Biggs. The other thing we're going to have in there is Corydoras, and then maybe some twig catfish. I don't know how big those get.
Oh yeah, like the Farlowellas.
Farlowellas, yeah, love those. I don't know how big they get on the outs, and I gotta look.
I'm not really sure. I haven't worked with those at all. So
in a 36, I think they could do okay for at least a long time, and they might go good in the vernal pool tank. I don't know.
Could be.
Who knows? That would be a cool little item to have in there, like a big showpiece. I don't like Plecostomus that much. I get why people do. I just don't. And like snakes, it's not a thing for me. I don't know. I get why people like them. And the main fish that I'm going to have in there is a really nice paradise fish. So I love them. I think they're awesome. I know they like it a little warmer than I'm going for, but they also can do okay in cooler water. So
well, my understanding is that they like the cycle. Like, I haven't kept paradise fish, but my understanding is that they like a cool winter. They do fine in a warm summer, but they actually prefer to have a cooler winter.
Okay, well, it'll just be eternal winter for them. So, or fall. I don't know, autumn maybe. So you can see all of this. So this is a little hint right here. So we're going to have clams. We're going to get into that in a minute. So we're going to have a refugium within the refugium. So within a refugium, we're going to inception this thing. You're going to see. Wait till you guys see how far my brain went with this. All right. So then we have a refugium shopping list, blah, blah, blah. This is all the stuff that I'm looking at. The heaters, we'll see how warm I can keep it down here. So I think I may or may not need heaters. So we'll see. It's been pretty warm down here.
What temperature do the turtles, the mud turtles, like? This species?
Low 70s is good. Like, really, like room temperature is fine. So like 68 to 74. 74 over that gets a little warm for them. So they don't bask. Mud turtles don't bask, so I don't need to. I'm going to have some UVB because for the and everything, but it's not required for a mud turtle because they don't bask. They just sit at the bottom and they get whatever they need from the ambient light, I guess. So that's a shopping list. So we'll see. We're looking at some of the prices here on the side. You can see, looking up some of the prices. Most of the substrate, I think, is where I'm going to spend my money. All right, here's where we got to the tank. So the vernal pool tank, the refugium, I've been seeing these online. So they have, it's a shrimp. This is a shrimp cave. Or like your cories or whatever will go in there. Coolie loaches, whatever bottom feeders will go in here. So you put this against the glass. Kind of like those, you've seen those for leopard geckos. You put this against the glass, and it's a cave that you made. So this one that I'm designing, I could buy one for like $15, but I have all the stuff. I have piles of styrofoam that I have to build stuff for tanks with that I never used, and I want to use it before I throw it all away. So it'll have 2 holes at the top, and then you just cover this thing in your substrate. You basically cover the top of it with your substrate. It's going to have plants on top, so that these will actually come up a little bit.
So like they're
out of the ground.
Like molehills, kind of.
Yeah, kind of. But it's going to go basically flat with the. I'm going to try to design it so it's flat with the soil level.
Okay.
So like the soil in here is going to be about 6 inches deep. So this thing will probably be 4 inches tall. So and then have it'll be pretty wide. I want it to be a decent portion, like a foot long, maybe. So I want it to be a decent portion of the one side of the vernal pool because I think it'll be really cool.
Oh, that'd be super cool. Yeah.
I keep calling it a vernal pool. That's essentially what it's going to be.
Except it doesn't seasonally dry out.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I'm pretty good at neglect, so we'll see what. Not that bad. This is not the less. So this is the tank within the tank within the tank. Here's the main tank over here. Okay. This is the closest corner of the refugium. This is the return. So the return, that setup that I showed you before with the breeder tank thing, is going to sit on top of a 2.5 gallon tank. Yeah, see? Astute watchers will see that note there. Disregard the sponge. I don't think I'm doing the sponge. So anyway, in the sand here is going to be clams, just chock full of clams. They'll be in the rest of the tank too, but they're going to be in here. This is going to be the clam zone. No plants, just clams in here. So the rest of the tank will have some clams too, but this is where they're going to be. So at the last minute, like this is going to be the return flow. It'll be a last little stop for any of the other particulates that are in the water that could get through here. So see this is where my brain goes, Russ. This is where it goes like, oh, you have a refugium? I've got a double refugium. What are you going to do now?
Refugium.
So yeah,
where?
I'm excited for that. Yeah, and we'll see what else moves in there with no plants. I want to see what else kind of moves in there.
Yeah. Interesting.
Oh, this is the shrimp tunnel and the clams. So we're going to go into the long side of the 55. So basically the tanks form an L. So yeah, I still have to decide where these are exactly going to go, but this is a rough idea with the shrimp tunnel here. So we'll see. And the back of the tank is going to be just that hill of substrate, basically. So I think that's the last picture. So that's my plan. Do you see any snafus? Do you see anything that's going to kill me on this?
Not necessarily, but I have some questions.
Yeah, let's go.
So one, you were talking about the hill of substrate.
Yeah.
Right. And how are you going to keep the hill a hill?
I don't know. By not messing with it. So in that tank, there's nothing that's going to really disturb the soil that much. The clams will, but nothing's going to be turning over that much sand or soil substrate. The neocordinas will a little bit. They'll dig through it a little bit, but I don't think anything's going to really, besides the clams, I don't think anything's going to disturb it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how long that lasts. Just if it, by virtue of just being in a system where things are moving and whatnot, and roots, and plants moving and over time slowly, if it changes that or not, it'll be interesting to see. I've never seen a system where that kind of shape in the substrate exists long term, just for various reasons. But it'll be interesting to see if it works.
It might. It might not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Some rock work in there too. There's gonna be a little bit of rock work, some lava rock. I'm trying to source some big pieces because I think it looks really cool, and it would be cool to cover like half of it with moss or Java fern or whatever.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That would be really cool. And then the clams. Oh yeah, Anubias looks awesome on that kind of stuff. I love Anubias. The one thing I'm wondering about too is the what you just talked about with
clams.
Yeah, the clams. So I have not kept freshwater clams before. I think I've had some marine clams here and there, maybe, but I've had some in marine tanks, but I've never had, not like the giant photosynthetic clams or anything, just little ones that came, on live rock or whatever.
Okay. But
I've never kept freshwater clams, and I know they are very good at filtering things.
Yeah.
And that, from what little I know about them, not a lot, is that sometimes they are so good at pulling things out of the water that they starve pretty easily. Oh, okay. My thought was having all these, I'm going to go kind of heavy on my fish in the main tank, considering we have all this water they have access to. I think I can cheat it a little bit and go with bigger than normal schools for the fish that I'm getting. And so maybe there'll be enough nutrients in the water from all that and from that maybe they'll be okay. Is that kind of your thought? That's kind of my thought. Plus all the vernal organisms that are going to be in there, all the microorganisms that are going to be in there are going to be putting a lot of waste out too. I mean, they'll be going through it as well.
But
Right.
yeah, there's maybe just a couple. Maybe let's start with a couple.
Yeah, I don't really know. I'm just asking because I don't know exactly how, what it could support. It seems like if you can leverage the ability of clams to filter the water, that sounds awesome. That's just making sure
Yeah.
that they can be supported.
Yeah, I don't want them to die. I mean, they're pretty simple organisms, but I don't want to get them thinking they're going to just starve to death.
Right. But if you start with a couple and see how they do, and if they do great, then
Well,
you
I'm
go.
thinking they might breed,
That
so
would be awesome.
that would be cool. If they're doing good, they'll breed, right? That's kind of how things go.
Yeah, and I don't know enough about breeding clams. I've never looked into that,
John's
but it'd
asking about
be cool.
retaining columns. I don't know what that
Oh,
is.
probably for the slanted, the hump of substrate.
Okay. What is
Maybe
that?
maybe if you had retaining columns, you could keep that longer. Yeah, I guess that's what he's saying. Kind of like retaining walls inside the hump, sort of.
Well, I get what you're saying, like build them up, kind of.
I think so. With
tier.
structures in there to keep the tiers in there, I think is what he's saying.
That could work. Like maybe bury some rock work in there or something.
Yeah, that could help.
That might help. We'll see. We'll see. I got some ideas. I got a little time on this, so this tank isn't going to be built for another couple months. So watch the channel. Watch the channel for some shorts, maybe a video tour of it.
Yeah,
Do
that would be
something for
awesome.
that. Yeah, yeah. And I have a submersible. With the last of my Patreon money, I got a submersible, one of those like snake cameras.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's only like 8 feet long or something. Normally for plumbing or whatever you want it to be, as long as possible. But it can go underwater and it has its own light. So I can do like a fisheye view type of thing. I could do it in the ant tank. I could do all kinds
You
of
could
stuff.
put it in the little tunnel thing under the substrate.
Yeah,
That would be so cool.
go inside there and see what's up.
Yeah.
Is harmless just ugly? What is this?
Oh, he's talking about how that some clams have the free-floating larvae that become temporarily fish parasites.
Oh, okay. To the size of fish, which causes spots that resemble ick. Gross.
Yeah, I've read about that, but I don't know which species do it, and I don't know if the species in the hobby, the freshwater clams that are sold in the hobby, do that or not. I have no idea.
I'll have to check that out. See, all these things, I'm glad. This is another reason I'm glad I had this episode, because I knew people would be giving me tips like, no, dum-dum, don't do that. Do this other thing. So far, the only thing I've heard then is negative about the clams. We might just nix the clams. We're not going to see them anyway.
Not even that I'm saying that you can't do it. I'm just saying these are some questions that come up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's adding stuff to it. Or maybe add the clams later, like a year in or something, with things are kind of built up a little bit.
Yeah, I think it would be fascinating if you can get them going. And if, for example, you have enough like microcellular algae that's growing in the water and they're pulling it out faster than, that would be really cool to do something like that.
It'd be cool to take that algae out. I definitely don't want algae. So we're going to plant real heavy. Because the plants are going to take stuff out, and they're going to help oxygenate. The bubbler is going to oxygenate the crap out of it because it's going to basically focus all of that into that one tube. And then we're going to have one going at the other end, like a bubble wall situation. Mm-hmm. So, and here's where my brain got real fun. So I've always wanted pea puffers too. And I'm like, why not do this tank turned into everything I ever wanted in one tank, one setup. So on the 55, I'm going to section off. I'm going to do it now, or as soon as I build the tank. It's going to be part of the initial build, but put a mesh. I think it's going to be just a plastic mesh that's in there, or like a neoprene type of thing. Mm-hmm. Something that's not going to degrade, really. In the freshwater, I think I can go pretty heavy with something. But a mesh down, maybe separate out about 10 inches of the tank. And then in there, on the mesh, we're going to grow Java moss, Java fern, maybe just Anubias, something that's going to grow like crazy on the mesh so it doesn't look crappy. Mm-hmm. After all this work, I don't want anything to look crappy, So that's my goal. That's my only goal, to have a non-crappy looking setup. But on the other side of that mesh, pea puffers, like a half dozen pea puffers, maybe more. But they'll have access to live food. Most of the ones in the hobby now take frozen. So I'm hoping they'll do both.
Yeah,
So,
that would be helpful.
Yeah. So pea puffers, which is something I've wanted forever. I had them a long time ago and didn't do very well by them. I was young and stupid, and I think I got other priorities and wound up giving the tank away. I think they were like too far gone though. And then a lot of places you get them from, they're not doing well to start with. So really got to watch. But I'm finding out about fish expos now. Very excited to see a fish expo because you can get better quality stuff for cheaper.
Yeah,
that's two great things. Or even if you pay more, it's better quality. Like the guy who bred it. I do think clams are a great idea for cleaning turtle water. Not sure I'd want to use those for clam chowder though. I mean, what do you think they're eating in the wild? What do you think they're eating in those farms? Like, come on, man. They're eating doo-doos. Or get those little pea-looking toadfish in the salmon tanks.
Oh yeah, like
they have in the salmon.
Yeah, those are so funny.
Those little guys are just like faces that float around the tank.
Yeah, floating faces.
Two funny little jelly beans. There's something about them. They eat parasites off of the salmon or something.
Yeah, that's what I understand, and so that's why they keep them around in there, and that's awesome. I mean,
that's just crazy. And the salmon don't eat them. The salmon don't bother them. But they're a pain in the neck to keep in the hobby. Apparently, they're a little harder to keep than you would want. And they're not freshwater. I believe they're like brackish or something.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, it would be a cool dedicated tank, and they don't take a lot of space. Oh, Andrew's here. Hey, Andrew. We've got a lot of people watching. This is good. This is one of the best so far. Of course, at the end. I told you, Russ, I'm going to overperform at the end. Crazy. So, so you're doing yours specifically to breed. Your refugium is a refuge.
This one is, yeah. And I've played around with them before. Like when I had pea puffers, my first pea puffer. Okay. I had this weird setup. This was a totally bizarre setup, but we're going into, some interesting things. So if you don't mind, I'll tell you about it. It's kind of
let's go.
Okay. So I had a long, narrow tank that was originally made for bettas. You could put partitions of glass in between.
Oh, sure.
I took all the partitions out and repurposed it for a puffer. And I wanted to grow plants in there, and I wanted some flow, but I also wanted to be able to inject CO2 into it for the plants and all this stuff.
Okay.
So it was about a 3-4 gallon tank, something like that. And so what I decided to do is build a refugium on the outside of it.
Okay.
And so, those little internal filters that you can get that have the little hook on the back, so you can hang it at different heights, and then you can make it go up or down, and so it can waterfall into the tank.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Or whatever. And like I can't remember. A couple of different companies make them, but the idea is that hook goes on the back, and then the filter's inside the tank, right?
Right.
So what I did is I took one of those, a small one, and put it in a separate smaller tank outside the main tank. But because the filter itself was higher than the water level in the outside small tank, but it was also higher than the water level in the puffer tank, I could use air tubing, a thicker, like wider gauge air tubing, not like the thin for an air pump, but thicker tubing. And I had one tube go into the tank and one tube go back out. And I made a siphon from the inside of the filter into this other tank, and then a siphon out into the other tank, which was lower. And because the differential of water height made by the filter, it worked. Okay. So I was siphoning water out of this tank and then out back into this one. And it worked.
I use physics.
It was a cool setup. It was a little bit unstable because sometimes if something got knocked loose, I'd have to redo everything.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Redo the siphon and whatnot. But it was pretty cool and it worked. And it allowed me to get fairly constant flow, but fairly low flow in that tank, which allowed me to do CO2. So I could grow a lot of plants in that tank and whatever. And I could also grow scuds and snails in that little tank for the pea puffer to eat.
That's so cool. Yeah, I definitely want to have snails because I want to grow, a good amount of snails in there too. So I mean, either they are already there in the pea puffer section or they, get put in there by me. So,
right. And just make sure you don't put Malaysian trumpet snails in there or they will knock your hill down.
They'll knock the hill, because they burrow like crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking ram's horn and just the little snails that you get,
Phycella snails, yeah.
Yeah, most of the aquarium stores will just, if they're on the glass or whatever, they will give them to you.
They'll give
I've
them to
had
you.
I've had people be like, "Yeah, just take a net. Here's a net. Get as many as you can. We don't care."
Right.
That's how I was feeding my pea puffers originally.
Yeah, and
Um,
I used to breed those and ram's horns for my pea puffers, as well
yeah,
as grindle worms and whatever different things.
yeah.
Even baby earthworms, I'd breed earthworms to give them the babies, and they would eat those.
Oh,
Uh,
smart, smart.
and
Because my red wigglers do that too.
yeah, I think it was the rainbow worms because I couldn't get red wigglers in Hawaii,
Okay,
but they worked fine. Yeah, they liked them.
boom, done. Yeah, worms can be. Our earthworms are basically aliens to America, right?
Yeah, most of the
Extraterrestrials.
earthworms that we are familiar with are ones that were introduced here. Yeah.
Crazy. All from ship ballast. Like nobody came with worms. Like, I'm going to scatter worms.
Yeah, it was like ship ballast, flower pots, that kind of thing.
So fun. So nature is so fun. What snails are you using? Yeah, I'm going to use ram's horn. I think the multicolor ones, I think they're really cool. The turtle will eat them too. So, and they
Yeah,
breed so fast. I don't really care.
they breed
So,
so ridiculously fast. Holy cow. I have
yeah.
them in my Daphnia cultures. I could probably, I don't know. I need something that eats them besides the few assassin snails that I have.
Well, when you ship me some Daphnia, throw some of those in there. I'll
There
be
you
fine
go.
with it.
There you
I'll
go.
be excited. Worms come from the Dutch. Damn Dutch. What else did they do? Just wrecking everything everywhere they go. My wife
I,
is Dutch. Don't tell her I said any of this stuff.
I bet worms came from a lot of places. Like all sorts of European travelers brought worms with them.
Yeah, we can't blame one group of people for that. We can blame them for a lot of stuff, but not for that. Not just for that. Um, that sounds really interesting. There's so many ways to do it, is the thing.
Yeah.
So many ways to do it. Again, my only concern is that it fails. But how do they keep a tank that has a sump on it from failing and just draining the tank onto your floor?
It does happen. It
Yeah.
happens. Yeah, and that's part of the reason that it can be problematic. Like you were saying before, that's something you don't want to happen. And you can set up things so that a lot of them have an overflow set up in such a way that once the water level goes past a certain amount, it doesn't go over the overflow anymore.
Okay.
It just stops. So like you'll have a corner of the tank, partitioned off with plastic, and then there'll be slits up at the top 1.5 inches of the tank.
Okay.
And as soon as the water level in the main tank goes below those slits, it stops draining.
So it's either like it can make it so it's not really going to drain on your floor, or if it does, it's minimal.
It's not as much, at least. It's not as much of an issue, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't want that. That's something I could think of. Because I'm still working out if this is going to work or not. I think it will. My brainstorm now is trying to figure out how to get water to come through the tube into the refugium, but not fish. So it's got to have some flow, but no fish. So I'm thinking some of that mesh that I was talking about for the pea puffers, have that there to give water flow, good water flow. Obviously, don't plant it. Obviously, don't put Anubias on that, but
right.
So the water will flow basically unimpeded. Maybe baby fish would get in there, but that's fine.
That wouldn't be so bad, yeah. And if you have a capped cylinder of the mesh around it, so that there's a lot of surface area for the water to go through, basically, there's a lot of area for the water. If, say, instead of having like a flat piece of mesh, like you have the opening and then you have a flat piece of mesh over it, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't take much for that to get covered and be obstructed because it's just not very much area.
Fair.
But if you have instead a cylinder that comes out and then the cylinder is capped with more mesh, then you have so much more area through which water can travel in the mesh, and it's less likely to get clogged because it takes a lot more to cover it.
So if the tube itself, like the original tube that's going to go between the tanks, if it comes out another couple inches or an inch or two, would that work as your caps?
And then basically you put a cylinder of the mesh over that.
A cylinder of the mesh. Okay,
Yeah.
now I got it. Now I got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that could help. You got a lot of moving parts in the system, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I feel like because there are so many moving parts, it's going to be really interesting to try to keep it all going together. But
I'm
at the same
super
time,
overthinking it. Yeah.
I think it's fascinating, and I really hope it works. And I'm sure that as it comes along, you'll say, "Oh, this is not going to work how I thought it was," but here's a solution, and
Yeah.
you can fiddle with it like that, and you can probably eventually come to something that may not be exactly what you envisioned, but it's probably close enough, and it's still enjoyable and beautiful. And
Yeah. I'm planning out to be ready to make some adjustments on the fly and figure some things out because I know there's going to be things that I mess up or whatever.
right, and just things you hadn't thought of before or whatever. It happens.
Yeah, which is good. That's why if you have advice for me, anyone else watching this, if you're watching this and you have advice for me, put it in the comments or message me on Facebook. Let's talk. So this is new. It's a little scary, but I think as much as the moving parts you're talking about, I think the design of the actual thing itself is simple enough that part should be foolproof. The moving parts are like the organisms interacting and being together.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the design of it, once it's built, is going to be simple enough that it is going to work pretty well.
Yeah, if you can get that mechanically running and keep it running, and the maintenance is going to be things like making sure things don't get clogged and stuff like that. Because but once you get that down, I think there's a lot of potential with all these different creatures, and you'll see what sticks. It's like throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. Some of these organisms will probably go gangbusters, and some will probably not thrive. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I get a mix because, I mean, obviously that's what you want. So I want to get those little. I want to get the same awesomeness that I had in that vernal pool, that little 2.5 gallon vernal pool tank that I had forever.
Yeah.
So, I want to see if I can get that because that lasted a long time, and the biodiversity and that was kind of crazy. I remember sending you little videos like, "Look at this little weird worm.
Yeah.
Look at this thing that just showed up. This is crazy."
Yeah, exactly.
But this will give them a chance to, have like a more a better environment to start off in.
Right, and
so
there's going to be a lot of micro environments within it because it's so big.
Yeah.
From their standpoint and so diverse that you have a lot of potential.
Yeah, I'm hoping it gives it enough that everything has its place. I know that it probably won't work out, but we'll see what works. Like you said, we'll see what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see and fix the. Did we talk about Daphnia? Daphnia are going to be in there. Daphnia, scuds. What else? What else did we talk about? Neocardinia shrimp.
Neocardinia shrimp, snails.
So as they breed, they're just going to come. I imagine they'll just show up.
Yeah.
So they did last time, like really fast. I don't know if they're in your Daphnia tanks.
They used to be. I think in my older iteration of my Daphnia tanks, I think I had copepods. I'm not sure that I do anymore. I haven't seen any for a long time because both of my Daphnia tanks that I have now, I based off of, and I'm not joking, 2 Daphnia that I isolated into a jar and had them breed, and then seeded one of the tanks and then seeded that tank from the other tank. So
why did you isolate 2? Just to see what you could do with 2 Daphnia?
It was partly to keep other organisms out. I wanted to make sure I had just pure Daphnia in the culture because some people like it when, there are scuds in here, there are copepods in here, whatever. And other people, I just want Daphnia. So I wanted to be able to offer just Daphnia and just scuds, or if people want both, they can get both, but by having completely separate tanks.
See. I'd love to see you guys get some pipefish.
Oh, pipe.
Do they? No, those are all fully saltwater, right?
Not all of them. They have the Gulf pipefish that are they're brackish water, and I think there are some that can tolerate freshwater, but I'm not entirely sure about that. But the Gulf pipefish at least are brackish, and you can keep them like in water that fluctuates a lot from full marine to full fresh and in between. But as far as full freshwater, I'm not sure. But pipefish are fascinating. I would love to get pipefish.
I think they're super cool. Yeah. It's like somebody ironed a seahorse.
Yeah, exactly. And they have those the freshwater ones that are kind of like that. They call them the crocodile fish or the toothpick fish, Indostomus.
Okay.
Indostomus crocodilus. They're like tiny little pipefish, rigid pipefish that are freshwater, completely freshwater.
Okay. That's kind of cool.
I've had people buy Daphnia from me for them and microworms and stuff like that to feed them.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm hoping ideally they'll have enough space to grow and enough time to grow before they get sucked into the main tank and eaten. So I can keep them going. I'm prepared to top off populations, but I'd rather not.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it just maintain like a little ecosystem.
That would be ideal. And it seems like if you think of it in terms of sink areas and source areas, which is useful to do in terms of when you're thinking of a refugium and a main tank.
Yeah.
Where are the areas where things are going to be producing more than they are losing, and where are they going to be losing more than they're producing?
Okay.
Like you think about that in terms of ecosystems, but also in a mini ecosystem like this. And so like the place where the puffer fish, the pea puffers are going to be, it's going to be a sink area for all your little, basically everything, for the snails, for the scuds, for the Daphnia, for any little worms or whatever, for the Neocaridina shrimp. It's going to be a sink area. Anything that gets in there is likely to be food for the puffers, at least at some part of its life stage.
Yeah.
Right. And so that part is not going to be producing anything. It's going to be a net loss as far as all those little critters in that part of the refugium. But the other part of the refugium where they can't get can be a source area where they're breeding like crazy. And as long as you can get enough breeding in that area, it will be okay.
Maybe give them less footprint.
And that could be a thing too. Yeah. And then maybe have fewer pufferfish just because, you get too many pufferfish, too many pea puffers together in a small space and they start having issues.
But they're schoolers too, is the thing. Like
they are, but once you get past a certain population density, they tend to get mean.
Huh. Well, I don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
If you had a much smaller footprint, just to, you can play with the footprint and decide how many you want to put in there and figure things out.
Yeah, I'll look into that because it's still going to be pretty big just because I want to put the pea puffers with like some leaf litter and maybe expose the dirt a little bit because they dive into
do their little blowing and diving things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. When they get threatened, they dive into the mud and the leaf litter. So they're definitely going to have that available.
That would be really cool.
And the leaf litter will do good for all the microorganisms too.
Oh,
so
yeah. And the shrimp love that.
Yeah. So there'll be some in there.
Shrimp won't love the pea puffers, but the pea puffers will love the shrimp.
So that's why I want this really fine mesh. Maybe they'll get some of the babies, because Neocardinia take off like crazy too.
Oh yeah,
breed like
you
crazy.
Should get a lot of them going in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want them to just be. If there's no predator for them, they're just going to be nuts.
Right.
So, and I don't want that. I don't want to try to like cull them or feed them to something else or like on purpose.
Yeah. And timing is so important. And you've been thinking of that. I think a lot of times people underestimate the value of timing as far as populating certain things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And by giving everything enough time to populate, you can a lot of times make the difference between success and failure. I've seen that with like Neocaridina shrimp. In one iteration of a particular tank, I had blue dream shrimp with blue star endlers. They were in there at the same time, but the shrimp got a start when the endlers were having a higher population. Then I had the tank start leaking and I had to take it down. And when I did, I had to take out everything, and
sure.
That kind of messed up the shrimp population because it was kind of an emergency takedown because it was leaking.
Yeah.
And so I lost most of my shrimp in that process of trying to save the tank. And even though I took out a bunch of shrimp, the fact that I had to put them back in this setup and everything, it stressed them out. Didn't stress out the endlers. They bred like crazy, but the fact that I had reduced the shrimp number so much made it so instead of having a breeding population of both, I just had a breeding population of endlers. So the timing was, and the population densities, the relative population densities made a huge difference.
Okay. Yeah, because I want to do the plants for about a month and then put in maybe not that long for the microorganisms to go in there. because I think they'll do well with the plants from the jump. But I want to make sure I don't have any Hydra. So
because they will eat so many of those little things
for sure and explode. I just saw a nightmare story of them just exploding.
Yeah, I've had that a couple times back in the day.
I've never had a problem, knock on wood, but now that I'm freaking out about it, now will be the time that I get it, you know.
Well, the thing is, as soon as you have any population of tiny things that's available, then if the Hydra are there, they'll go nuts. Like I remember when I was a kid and feeding like fish fry, things like microworms and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's when all of a sudden I was like, oh, I have 4,000 Hydra in this 10-gallon tank. What just happened? Well, I've been feeding microworms for a month. There was probably just one when I started.
Okay.
But,
then they take off.
Yeah.
I did find a thing online for, I don't know how I got into Hydra, but I don't know how I went down that rabbit hole. I don't know what started it, but I did. And so then I was looking for like, what happens if you get it? Like, what can you do? So apparently you can make a solution out of 3% food grade hydrogen peroxide.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the food grade is because then it's just pure hydrogen peroxide. There's no additives. There's no whatever.
Yeah.
So I was thinking if I do that ahead of time in a bucket and then like soak the plants in there for a little bit, and then it's a solution is not all 3% hydrogen peroxide. There's water, obviously, but to let them soak in there for a couple hours, then put them in the tank. That will totally take the chances down. That'll knock the chances way down that I have it as well.
Hydra. Yeah, that makes sense.
So that and those cultured plants that they have, those
specially
cultured plants. Yeah. That's a good way to go.
You know you're not going to get Hydra. They start out small, but you're safe. You're not getting anything you don't want to get.
Yeah, and they'll grow in a couple months. So I don't plan to add fish for like 6 months. And I want to add the fish before I add the turtle so that they know where to go just in case.
Right.
I'm prepared to have some casualties, but I don't think it'll be that big a deal. I don't think it'll be a big issue. Let's build a dedicated hydro tank. Shut up, Justin.
I mean, they're fascinating. They're fascinating, but depends on what else you want to keep with them.
Oh, you saw something move back here? This is from Rus as well. It might be my shadow. It might be my reflection you saw move. But these are my 3 morning geckos from Rus.
Oh, cool.
This is their setup. I don't know if you saw it. That little green thing is a soda cap. That's their food. So right now it's the watermelon rapashi. I also have the fig and bug or whatever, that one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I have that one too. So
cool.
I rotate. So they've had this. This is, I got to change it when I get done with this. But then you can probably see the beta in here. Here he comes.
I remember you sent me a couple shots of this tank earlier, but I haven't seen it from this
angle. You see him?
Yeah, I can. I saw him move.
So my daughter picked him out. He's from when I was breeding betas. I'm very critical about their fins and their body shape, and so I picked out 4. And I picked out 4 that I was like, all right, you pick one, because I told her she could pick. So then she's almost 7 now, so she's smart and she's got her own attitude. So she said, Daddy, you said I could pick before we even got here, and now you're telling me I could pick from 4, and there's like 150 of them here. I said, okay, you pick one then. And I was like, ugh. So she found one. Why am I on Wi-Fi? My Wi-Fi thing just came on. That's weird. Or my little connection indicator. So she picked out this guy, and he's a good-looking beta, but his fins are like curled at the end. Like they got, I don't know what happened, but whatever. That's how he is. So they're just at the very ends. They're like curled over, and I can't not see it. Every time I see it on them, I'm like, ugh. It's kind of a cool thing. It looks kind of cool if you just look at it from a non-beta breeder thing.
Yeah.
But I can't do that. I still can't do that. And I know at PetSmart or whatever, you're not going to get a show quality beta.
Right.
But I don't want to pay those prices either. So.
Right.
But yeah. So she got to pick him. His name is Fish. She got to name him too. And I was like, oh, you're not creative at all. Green alien hybrid betas. Yeah. Good luck, Frank. Those things are. You just had a morning gecko hatch. I'm a little concerned with the holes in the top of this tank that they're just instead of you put a toothpick through it, the babies can get out.
Yeah, they're amazingly.
So yeah, I gotta
amazing what they can get out of.
I jammed like where the clips are. The lid comes off, the top comes off, and there's little clips.
Yeah.
So it's like a panel. So I put I jammed some cotton ball in there to keep that because there was a noticeable gap. I was actually worried that an adult could get out of it. It's too small for that, but they might try and get stuck and whatever. I don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. Underdog would be a good name for that fish.
It's true.
I'm sure Frank can get green alien hybrid betas. So I bred armadillos is what I bred. They were like a Plocket version, and they had Plocket scales. So they had those bigger, thicker scales.
Oh, yeah.
So they were mostly black. The bodies were mostly black. And then the scales, they had a iridescent stripe, basically. It was the whole head and then down the back. So the armadillo came from the shape, and each scale was like defined as this. Yeah, it was like a greenish blue. I had called it turquoise, but I won 2 prizes, 2 awards for my betas.
Awesome. I love the Plaquette betas the best, honestly.
I do too. Yeah, yeah. I like the king betas that they have.
Those are cool. Yeah,
but they don't tend to live very long. So I don't know what they're doing, but I've never had one live more than a year.
Interesting.
So yeah, but they're pretty fun when you have them, but they're expensive. And the koi, I like the koi coloration that they have on the betas now.
In the Galaxy koi. Yeah.
Yeah, really cool stuff. Unfortunately, can't really do a beta in this tank. One beta is not going to put a huge dent in the vernal pool populations, but I don't want to mess around with it.
Yeah.
How happy would he be in there, though?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that would be the happiest beta maybe on the planet.
Yeah. Always have live food snackages around. And
I mean, that's the dream. But Celebi's rainbow fish is another one that I want in this tank. Little ones, right, with the black fins. I've kept rainbow fish, not that species though. I have to remind myself which one that is. Masking tape. That's smart too. I'm going to put some fiberglass screen across the top of this thing and cut it to size and then silicone it down. My daughter named her Half Moon Beta Half Moon. Yeah, John, that's pretty common. Half Moon's a cool name though. Maybe she thought that was his name.
Talking about. I just looked up. I looked up the ones you're talking about. I have never kept them, so I don't really know much about them. But
they're like a golden yellow with those little black.
Little black edges, and they're kind of translucent, and the golden yellow and the orange bits on their fins. They're beautiful.
They're really pretty little fish.
Yeah.
I'm either going to do that or some kind of endler, something small. I want something that's going to breed in the tank too. So. Yeah,
that's the most fun. I have so many blue star endlers. I don't know.
Oh gosh.
So if you ever want blue star endlers, I have like 300.
Well, when we have the shipment go, I might add those to my shipment.
Yeah.
So maybe put them in first as like a cycle fish.
Yeah. And they're gorgeous. I mean, blue star endlers are pretty.
Okay. All right. Well, definitely. I'll take some off your hands then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for this tank. The stuff I can do with it is just kind of limitless.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'm excited to see how it evolves over time.
And as I get it going, you guys can reach out and ask for advice because I think everyone's going to want one. True Isobuddies are going to want one. 300, those are rookie numbers. Try 100,000. Jeez. Hard pass on that one. That would be my basement. Like, they'd just be lined. This is not a big space. I have the tiniest house. So, yeah, that would be like lining my basement walls and floor with endlers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're cool. I don't know the difference between endlers and guppies, though. Like, to me, they look so similar.
They're pretty similar, but there's some key differences. One of them is that endlers seem to have lines that naturally in the wild sort of perpetuate like specific localities that remain, pretty similar to each other, whereas guppies seem very variable even within a locality.
Okay.
That seems part of it. I mean, you can get guppy strains that are uniform, but that's more of a selective breeding thing. Whereas with endlers, it seems more like you can find a locality of endlers that look like that.
Yeah.
And so it's really easy to maintain that as long as you don't mix it with anything else.
I think the guppy people are a lot like the isopod people. That community I dipped my toe in last year, and they are very seriously a lot like isopod people with all their morphs and their strains and their, oh, I'm getting these together and yada yada. It's the exact same mentality, exact same, and they're really nice. They're really nice people.
Yeah.
So they almost got me into guppies. I was this close. I said, nah.
Guppies are cool. I bred guppies for years. They're super cool, but I do prefer endlers, I think.
That seems to be the consensus. Because all I care about is you and Frank's opinion on this. It's going to take 100% of the people that answered me think that endlers are better than guppies. So my research shows 100% accurate.
Sample size is big enough. It's okay.
I mean, what is that like? It's like more than 10% of the audience. That's great.
There you go.
That's great. Does anybody have any other questions? I'm going to stall for a minute. Anybody got any questions? I'm going to keep detailed journal and video journal of this thing on the Isobuddies page here. So build and then how it's going and updates, whether they're good or bad, because I wanted people to learn from something that I did.
Yeah, you're going to do it on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, so it'll be still going. It just won't be like live streams. It'll just be little videos.
Cool.
Maybe shorts, maybe just videos of the tank. I might do a thing where I just leave a camera on it.
That would be cool, actually.
For a while. Yeah, just leave a camera on it for a couple hours, I have an extra phone. I could hook it up to the Wi-Fi and just have the phone doing it while I'm asleep.
Yeah.
All right, Ruby, have a good night. We're about done anyway. Got about 5 minutes left. That was Ruby's only question. When can I leave? No. She's seriously awesome. She's a really nice person, too. Credit or debit? Ooh, definitely debit. Definitely debit. I don't want them to take my card if it doesn't have a PIN. I don't understand how you can use your debit without the PIN. Like, that's the whole point of having a PIN.
Yeah, that's true.
Pineapple on pizza? No. Russ? You were in Hawaii. You lived in Hawaii. You like pineapple on pizza.
Well, I lived in Italy, too, so.
Oh, well, so you...
I never had pineapple on Italian pizza, and I would never have it on Italian pizza.
How am I keeping so awesome? Ruby, it's the hair.
There
it's
you
the hair,
go.
Ruby. It's the hair. That's what it is. Is a hot dog a sandwich? I say yes. My friend Reed, who was in here earlier, says no. I also say a taco's a sandwich, technically. So, pineapple on pizza wasn't that bad. You got to really dry it. You got to get it dry. So, yeah, this hair's at 50 years old. I'm a 50-year-old. Look for the grays. I don't do anything to it. You're not gonna. It's receding a little bit. It's now that I look at it, it's receding a little bit. My forehead was not this big. I dream in 3D, y'all. As you continue, it gets overwhelming. Yeah, I would say small amounts, and you really got to dry it because it adds too much water to the top of the pizza. It adds too much liquid. Is a taco a sandwich or a sandwich is tacos? Taco's a sandwich, bro.
I think a taco is within the clade of sandwiches rather than the other way around.
Oh, the clade. I like that. Let's do, dude.
We'll do phylogeny of sandwiches.
Let's do it. I'm going to come on your show and we'll do phylogeny. Phylogeny,
yeah.
Of sandwiches. I will do research for that show if you want to do that episode and just have fun.
That would be hilarious.
Let's do that. We could have like the Reuben. You just because sandwiches are my jam. When I was a chef, I researched sandwiches for months. Like not specific sandwiches, but like what makes a great sandwich.
Yeah.
Like what do they have in common? Like here's this sandwich that's awesome. Here's this sandwich that's awesome. What's in common? Okay, let's break it down. So sandwiches are holy to me.
Yeah.
If you give me a bad sandwich, you're going to have to hear about it for a while because I'm going to coach you on how to make a good one. Is cereal a soup? No. Cereal's not. Here's why. And this is from a cook standpoint too. Milk isn't broth. You're not preparing the milk over time Like, it's not a legit soup. You have to prepare the broth over some time. Soup of tea? Is tea just wet salad? If you have salad in your tea, you're drinking the wrong kind of tea. What the hell?
Oh. Woo!
You can put anything in a sandwich, Major Wad. Salad tea all the way. You guys are messed up. You get the messed up questions after the hour mark.
I guess so.
Which way do you tilt your head when eating a taco? To the left.
I don't tilt my head at all when eating a taco.
Oh, well, okay, that's hard shells. You got to tilt your head when you're eating hard shells.
No, well, that's true. Yeah.
I just assumed that's what he was talking about. I don't get those very often. Is the ocean just a diluted tea if leaves fall into it? Yep. That's all it is.
Leaves do fall into it.
It's just tea. It's just gross microorganism-filled tea.
Oh, boy.
Ice cream sandwich is a sandwich. We've gone way off the rails. Well, I mean, I'm waiting for people to ask questions, and to be fair, they are.
Those were questions. Yeah, they were.
Those are questions.
Yeah,
and I do consider myself a sandwich expert. So, the ocean is soup. That's fair. That broth has been prepared for a long time.
It's true, and it's even salted.
They are serious questions. Russ, it's our last episode together, unless I come on Aquarimax for some ungodly reason.
I think at some point that has to happen. So.
Well, yeah, everybody needs to slum sometimes. So you could slum, have me on.
Yeah.
Good. Appreciate your other guests more. Is a fly without wings a walk?
Well, I got to tell you that somebody from my live stream today brought up flavored margaritas.
Really?
And how they love that name and they use it all the time. They never forget it. So that's you.
That was the Mangiotis. No, what's the actual one?
Flavored margaritas. And you came up with the name flavored margaritas, and they brought it up just spontaneously. So it was awesome.
Years later. That was a couple years ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago when we did that video.
That was back when we still talked about isopods now and then. I haven't talked about isopods in so long. We're about to do it again with Kyle Bunch.
Yeah.
But I forget who's coming on next week because I never do this. I never do my own show research. But we're packed. We're packed every Tuesday until it's over with.
So are we still doing the episode, like
the last episode?
You're gonna have the like open mic sort of thing?
TJ Umbrell's coming on next week. We're gonna talk about roaches. His choice.
About what?
Roaches. His choice.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Choice of roaches.
Guy. Yeah.
He is a roach guy. He's got a lot of gross stuff too. So
like leeches and stuff.
Yeah. What was your question? I'm sorry.
What was my question?
You were asking me something or saying something.
I forgot.
I have to rewind. You just said it, and I said TJ. Oh, we're still going to be having the free-for-all.
Yeah.
The last episode. Yeah, we're going to have it. I'm going to put the link up on Facebook in the Isobuddies page. And if you just click that link, you'll wind up here.
Cool.
Right here. You wind up right here. Or there. You wind up right there with Russ. I hope it's on your screen. It's the same.
Yeah, it looks like you're pointing at me.
Okay. All right, good.
Yeah, and please remind me when that's coming and all that stuff, because I want to be there. I want to pop in at least for a while. I want to,
That's awesome. Yeah, because I want to see how many people we can pop in without it freaking out. So I think you get a max of 6 or 10, unless you pay for it, and then you pay
something like that.
And I'm not. It's like $40 a month.
Oh no, it's expensive. Yeah,
it's crazy. I was like, no way, buddies. Flavored meningitis. Whoa.
I think flavored margaritas are a little safer.
I think flavored margaritas a lot. Yeah, not going to kill anybody. Flavored meningitis. I guess people like margaritas more. Yeah, people like margaritas more. Crying out loud. Anyway, yeah, I'm trying to choke back emotions here. It's weird. It's weird having to be the last one.
It is. It is.
What was your reaction the first time I reached out to you to be on the show? So I don't remember. I don't remember how we actually met.
I don't remember either. I just remember you reaching out and say, I know somebody, I think you said, and they said you would be like a good good person to have on the show. And I was like, oh, cool.
Might have been Wally.
Sounds funny. It might have been Wally.
That might have been Wally.
Yeah.
So
I think it was. That makes sense. And it sounded cool. I mean, I had been on other shows before, but I think your show is the show upon which I have been more than any other ever. I think you have on a live stream for sure, like 100%.
Okay. Oh yeah, because Clint, you're on Clint's show a lot.
Yeah, I've been on Clint's show a number of times, so I don't know, as far as that goes. But none of those have been live streams.
He doesn't do live streams, does he?
So he does, but I'm not very commonly, and I've never been on one.
Yeah.
So as far as being on a live stream guest, I've been on your show more than any other, and I don't know. I may have been on your show or his show more as far as videos, but I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. That's an honor.
Yeah,
it's because I beg. It's because I beg really good.
No,
Please.
I'm always super happy to come on your show. I would, I want to make sure I show up. The only reason I have managed to keep it together is because I'm not thinking about this as the last show. I'm thinking about when you get everybody together as the last show. So.
Oh, good. Because I'm starting to get like all choky and weird. So, because it's a big deal. It's a big deal. It's weird. It's weird shutting it down. It's time, but it's weird. So.
Yeah. It's bittersweet. You're going to be doing some really cool things, and we'll still be able to follow that. So that's something.
We're going to be doing a puppet show. Here we go. I don't know if I ever showed you this puppet, Russ. This is Clutch.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you have shown me that one.
That's Clutch.
Pretty cool.
Clutch is going to be the star of the new show. So we're going to do a lot of different things with Clutch.
I love how he has such expressive eyebrows.
Yeah, and they're kind of like gelled because I wanted him very Oscar the Grouch. He's got attitude. We're going to start off doing like Dear Abby commentary. So we're going to answer all the Dear Abby questions we can find just by reading the headline. That's all. I don't care about the actual full question. I just want to read the headline and then answer their questions because I think that's really funny. Foghorn Leghorn, that would be awesome. Easily my favorite character from Looney Tunes.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. Iconic.
Not a voice I can do either. But guys, we're going to call it next week again. TJ Umbrell. We're going to talk about, I don't think that's how he says it, but that's how I like to say it. We're going to talk about roaches. It's his choice what we talk about. So we're going to give him that choice the last episode. Open multiple windows and play 8 episodes at once. Yeah, do that, Wayne.
Yeah, reduce your viewer experience a little bit, but you can get through.
That's okay. I still get those numbers. That's good. Turn them on and just go to bed. You'll get it through osmosis. All right, guys. Have a good night. Thanks so much for coming. I hope we all learned something. I learned stuff. So, as usual.
And I did too.
See you next Tuesday. All right. And